the most terrifying and mysterious disappearance case in the world, and one of the most famous puzzles that has baffled people and scientists in the 21st century. Kremers and Lisanne Froon, two young Dutch women who decided to take a short hike through a forest in Panama. But they suddenly vanished and never returned, turning their trip into a mysterious nightmare that no one could explain. No witnesses, no screams, no clear trace of what happened, just a sudden disappearance in broad daylight. The case quickly turned from a local incident into a global mystery that baffled investigators and shocked the minds of millions. Extensive investigations involved detectives from the Netherlands and Panama, international intelligence, rescue teams, aircraft, and search dogs. After months of searching, all that was found was a backpack containing a camera and mobile phones with mysterious photos taken deep in the forest, and terrifying night shots with no clear explanation. After years of deep analysis and chilling theories, today we will uncover shocking facts and exclusive secrets never told before about one of the most mysterious cases in the world. The events of our intriguing story begin on March 15, 2014, when a plane took off from Amsterdam Airport in the Netherlands, carrying two close friends, Kremers, 21 years old, and Lisanne Froon, 22 years old. Kris and Lisanne met at a cafe where they worked together, and from that moment their friendship turned into a bond deeper than sisterhood, to the point that they decided to live together in one apartment. Kris was social and energetic, while Lisanne tended to be calm and composed. When Lisanne met Kris, she began to love the spirit of adventure, and Kris was able to instill in her a love for travel, making discovering the world a shared dream between them. To achieve this dream, they agreed to work hard for 6 full months, and they would use all the money they saved to travel to Panama. And indeed, after 6 months of continuous work and saving money, the perfect opportunity came for them to travel on a 6-week trip, during which they would volunteer at a school in Panama, while also discovering the country's beauty and enchanting nature. On March 15, 2014, they said goodbye to their families at the airport and boarded the plane, their hearts full of excitement and passion to begin a new adventure. But sadly, their dream turned into a nightmare, and Kris and Lisanne's trip became one of the most mysterious disappearance stories in modern history. And after the two girls arrived in Panama, Kris and Lisanne spent the first 2 weeks of their trip enjoying the charming atmosphere of the Bocas del Toro region, where they explored the country, swam in the sea, and began taking Spanish lessons. They were in daily contact with their families in the Netherlands, reassuring them and sharing details and photos of their trip. On the 29th of March, they reached their final destination, a quiet little mountain town called Boquete. This was the town where they decided to spend most of their time. They had arranged to stay with a host family, and the homeowner, Mrs. Miriam Guerra, provided them with a private suite in her home until they began their volunteer work at the Aura School for Children. On the morning of Monday, March 31st, they headed to the school. Upon arrival, they received an unexpected shock as the school administration informed them they had to wait an additional week, claiming there were no vacancies for them at the time, even though the administration itself had sent them the date before they left the Netherlands. Beyond the school's failure to commit, the staff there were not friendly to the two girls, which they confirmed in their letters to their families and their private diaries. Suddenly, they found themselves with a whole week of free time and no prior plans. Out of curiosity, they asked Mariam and the locals about beautiful places worth visiting, and that is how the idea of exploring the nature trails in the heart of the forests surrounding the city of Bukitingi came about. On the morning of Tuesday, the 1st of April, Kris and Lisanne decided to go on an exploration trip by themselves. They chose a popular hiking trail there called El Pianista, a path well known to tourists and locals alike, located near the Great Baru volcano. It was supposed to be a simple and safe trip, just a few hours of walking amidst the stunning nature, with plans to return in the evening. They woke up in the morning and posted on Facebook that they were going for a hike in the city, while Kris sent a message to her friend Stefan, telling him they were heading for a trip in the mountains and that everything was going normally. Since the hike was not long, their gear was simple. Just light shirts and shorts, one backpack containing a water bottle and some snacks, Lisanne's passport and Kris's health insurance card, plus a digital camera to take photos during the trip, and of course, their mobile phones. It was clear from their gear that they were only planning for a few hours, nothing more. At 10:30 in the morning, they took a taxi together and headed to the El Pianista Trail. Upon arriving at the start of the trail near El Pianista restaurant, they were joined by a famous local guard dog named Azul, who was accustomed to accompanying tourists on their mountain hikes. Hours after Kris and Lisanne left, and as night began to fall over the town of Boquete, the owners of El Pianista restaurant, Giovanni and Doris, noticed that Azul had returned alone, without the two girls who had hiked up with him at noon. Meanwhile, in the city, Miriam, the homeowner, began to feel anxious as night fell, noticing the two girls had not yet returned. But she told herself they might have been delayed somewhere or decided to spend the night out. But the night passed, the next morning arrived, and the two girls had still not returned. That is when Miriam began to suspect that something had happened to them, especially since they had an appointment with the tour guide, Feliciano Gonzalez, at 8 in the morning. Why would they stay out and miss an appointment they knew so well? The night passed, and the next morning came, but the girls did not appear. That is when doubt began to creep into Miriam's heart, for it made no sense for them to be gone when they had an important 8 o'clock appointment with the tour guide, Feliciano Gonzalez. Even the guide himself began to feel worried. He first went to the school, and when he did not find them, he headed to Miriam's house to check on them. But he did not find them there either, so he suggested they enter their room to see if they had packed their things and left after the disappointment they faced at school. When they entered the room, they found all their belongings just as they were, and even the beds were made, which meant they had not traveled, but they had spent the entire night away from home. Up to this point, there was still hope that the girls were fine, and perhaps they just decided to spend the night in the forest. But what was suspicious was that their families in the Netherlands, who were used to the girls sending them daily messages to reassure them, noticed that the messages they were receiving suddenly stopped without any explanation. By the 2nd of April, as night fell, it became clear to everyone that the girls' disappearance was real, and not just a delay. Consequently, the police were notified of their disappearance. On the morning of the 3rd of April, the Civil Protection Authority declared a state of alert, and official search operations began. Feliciano the guide set off with a number of locals and other guides, combing the mountain trail inch by inch, fearing that every passing minute reduced the chances of finding the girls alive. Despite all efforts, they found no trace to ease the growing anxiety. By the next day, official search operations expanded further. Helicopters flew over the area to scan the entire forest from above, and ground search teams entered all known trails, looking for any sign of them. But the problem was that the forest was vast and dense, and their efforts yielded no results. From there, things took a more serious turn when the girls' families arrived in Panama on the 6th of April, accompanied by private investigators from the Netherlands. Once they arrived, they announced a huge financial reward of $30,000 for anyone who provides any information leading them to the two girls. In Panama, This amount was a real fortune that could change an entire family's life, especially in a rural area like this, where most people work for a daily wage of less than $10 a day. As expected, hundreds of people went out to search for the two girls, hoping to claim the reward. Yet, despite that, 10 full days of intensive searching by local forces and international experts ended with no results. Not a single lead or sign was found to indicate their whereabouts or even their fate, as if the earth had opened up and swallowed them whole. As time passed, the hope of finding Kris and Lisanne alive began to fade away. Official search teams stopped their work and relied only on help from the locals. Days and weeks passed. Then they entered the first, second, and third month, and nothing new appeared. No one in Boquete remained talking about the two girls who disappeared in the forest. As for their families, they began to accept the idea that the two girls had likely passed away, but the question that broke their hearts every day was, what exactly happened to them? How could two girls on a simple hike along a well-known trail like this vanish without leaving a single trace behind? About 10 weeks after they disappeared, specifically in the middle of June, and after everyone had almost lost hope, a new lead emerged in the case. An indigenous woman was working in a rice field bordering the Culebra River in a remote area called Alto Romero. Her eyes fell upon a blue backpack lying at the river's edge, and strangely, she was 100% sure that the bag had not been there yesterday. It seemed as if the river water had suddenly washed it up, or someone had placed it there deliberately in the dead of night. When she opened it and saw its contents, she felt it was related to the two missing girls everyone was talking about. Due to the difficulty of reaching the Alto Romero area and its complete isolation from technology and transportation, she handed the bag to her husband, who took it with a group of village men and traveled a long distance to deliver it to the nearest authorities. When investigators examined the bag and showed it to the girls' families, it was confirmed to be Lisanne's. But the question that baffled everyone was, how did the bag reach that area, which is about 8 kilometers away from the El Pianista trail where the girls were, deep inside a very dense forest? This distance is a huge challenge, even for the most experienced professionals. If someone were equipped with all the necessary gear, it would take them about 14 hours on foot. So how could two girls with no equipment manage that? When the police received the bag, they said, since it was found on the riverbank, the girls must have fallen into the water and the river current carried their bag all this distance. The bag was also found covered in mud and sand. Although their phones and camera were wet, the bag's overall condition was much better than expected. This raised investigators' suspicions, because if the girls were lost, the bag should have spent nearly 10 weeks in the Panamanian rainforest, which is known for high humidity and heavy rain. Consequently, another possibility was raised, that someone had placed the bag on the riverbank recently, not months ago. This is when suspicions began to shift toward the possibility of a kidnapping or murder. In this case, investigators began examining the bag's contents as forensic evidence. The bag contained 2 pairs of sunglasses, a water bottle, Lisanne's passport, Kris's health insurance card, $83 in cash, as well as a digital camera and both of their phones. Among the strangest items were the 2 girls' bras. Even stranger was that all the contents were neatly arranged inside the backpack. Here, the investigators found themselves facing a new mystery. The arrangement of the bag in this way does not resemble the packing of 2 girls lost in the woods, struggling to survive. It is certain that they were not in a position to arrange the contents of the bag with such precision and order. Even if we assume they were kidnapped, why would the kidnapper leave the bag with the phones and camera inside? As investigators began analyzing the data on the phones, they discovered the timeline of Kris and Lisanne's final days. They found that at 4:39 p.m. on April 1st, the same day they disappeared, there was an attempted call from Kris's phone to the Dutch emergency number 112. That was less than 3 hours after the last photo taken of them on the camera at the summit of the trail. And just 12 minutes later, a second call attempt was recorded from Lisanne's phone to the same emergency number. This means that after finishing the trail, instead of heading back, they went deep into the forest. Clearly, they encountered a problem that prevented them from finding their way back, so they started calling emergency services. Unfortunately, none of the calls went through due to a lack of signal where they were. Records also showed they would turn the phone off after each attempt, then turn it back on later to try calling again. Most likely, the goal of this method was to save battery for as long as possible until help could reach them. They continued this pattern for 4 full days. On the 2nd of April, they tried several more times, and in one attempt, the call actually caught a signal. But unfortunately, the call lasted only 1 second. Then the connection was immediately lost. In total, 77 emergency calls were recorded, reflecting the desperation they felt as they kept trying to reach anyone who could save them. As data analysis continued, a new mystery emerged on Kris's phone. On the 5th of April, calls from Lisanne's Samsung Galaxy S3 stopped completely, likely because the battery had died, leaving no hope but for Kris's iPhone. Up until this moment, the person using Kris's phone knew the passcode well, as every time the phone was unlocked, the passcode was entered correctly. But strangely, on the 6th of April, the phone was turned on several times, yet the correct passcode was not entered. It was either entered incorrectly or skipped. This sudden change led investigators to believe that on that day, the phone was in the hands of someone other than Kris. And here they faced a new mystery. If we assume something happened to Kris and Lisanne was trying to use her friend's phone after she lost consciousness, for example, or even passed away, why would she even need to enter the passcode to call emergency services? It is known that smartphones have a feature that allows emergency calls from the lock screen without needing to unlock the phone. The idea that someone was trying to unlock the phone rather than just calling emergency services led investigators to believe that this person was not Lisanne, but perhaps a third party who found the phone and was trying to access the information on it. Especially since these attempts continued, with the phone being turned on and off intermittently until the 11th of April, when the phone was unlocked at 10:51 in the morning, remained on for a full hour, and then shut down for the last time. After examining the phones, it was the turn of Lisanne's digital camera. The camera contained 133 photos. The first set of photos was normal. Pictures of the two girls laughing and happy as they made their way toward the top of the trail. Each photo was accompanied by its timestamp, which helped investigators map out a clear timeline for the start of the trip, as it turned out that all the photos were taken before 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the 1st of April. After that, the camera remained off until 1:30 in the morning on the 8th of April, which is nearly a full week. And when the cameras opened again in the early hours of the 8th of April, this series of images that completely changed the course of the case began. From about 1 to 4 in the morning, over 90 photos were taken, at a rate of 1 every 2 minutes. Strangely, all the photos were in total darkness, showing nothing clear, just parts of plants, rocks, and a dirt path. with no faces or people visible in any of them. The only photo in which a person appeared was photo number 580, where part of Kris's hair appeared from behind, and on her hair was a dark substance that people's opinions differed about, between those who considered it mud or perhaps a trace of blood. In another photo, number 576, strange items appeared gathered on a rock, such as plastic bags, candy wrappers, and some tree branches. As for the third photo, a reflective material resembling a small mirror appeared in it, next to a wallet or part of a belt. Another set of photos was aimed downward toward a deep valley or ravine, leading people to believe that one of the two girls might have fallen below, while the other was trying to light the way for her. The important thing is that all the camera angles were very strange, and the purpose of taking them was unclear. Experts who know the area well, when they saw these photos, could not identify the locations where they were taken, but they began proposing theories to explain the reason for the photography. The first of these theories was that the two girls might have been trying to use the camera flash to light the path ahead, which is why the photos were not clear, as they were only using the camera as a light source in the dark. But this theory was ruled out because all the photos were taken from almost the same spot. If the camera flash was meant to light the way, the photos would have been taken in sequence, not from nearly the same location. Furthermore, using a strong flash in pitch darkness can cause temporary blindness, making it impractical for helping them see the path. That is why this theory was quickly dismissed. The second theory suggests the girls were using the flash to scare off a predator nearby, especially since this forest is known for predators like mountain wolves and jaguars. But investigators ruled out this possibility too, as none of the photos showed any sign of an animal lurking nearby, not even partially. Consequently, investigators leaned toward the third theory, that they were trying to signal the search team looking for them, especially since many of the photos were aimed at the sky. Perhaps they heard a plane or sensed someone nearby and tried to signal for help. This might also explain why all the photos were taken from nearly the same spot, as they may have been injured or trapped in one place and unable to move. As for the photo showing their belongings gathered on a rock, some interpreted it as them preparing a distress signal, hoping search teams would find it and notice it in broad daylight, knowing the two girls were in that area. But the most disturbing photo was the one showing Kris's hair. If Lisanne was the one taking the photos, why would she photograph the back of her friend's head like that? Was she trying to document a head injury, or is there another reason? Ultimately, no one could reach a definitive answer to explain the photos. Perhaps they were just random shots of two girls who lost focus and hope in harsh conditions. Or perhaps the most terrifying explanation is that these photos were taken by a third person who was there with them in the forest. One of the key pieces of evidence supporting the third-party theory is that the investigation team noticed something strange while analyzing the photos. When they reviewed the file numbers, they noticed a missing number. The photos were numbered in the following sequence: 506, 507, 508, and then photo number 509 should have followed in the sequence. But the surprise was that the numbering jumped directly to 510, which was the first photo in the mysterious night photo collection. This means that photo number 509, which is supposed to be the last photo before the disappearance, was deleted from the camera itself. Some might think it is normal. Perhaps they took a photo and did not like it, so they deleted it, which is what many people do. But the problem is that it was much more complex than that. When we delete a photo from a digital camera, It may disappear from view, but its trace remains on the memory card, and any expert can easily recover it. But the strange thing is that photo number 509 was completely wiped from the root, and no trace of it was found on the memory card, as if someone had connected the camera to a computer and used specialized software to erase the image entirely. This is something the two girls could not possibly have done while in the middle of the forest. First, because it makes no sense, and second, because they did not have a computer with them. This reinforced the theory of a third party in the case. Someone took the camera, saw a dangerous secret in photo number 509, and decided that no one should ever see it, so they deleted it in a way that prevents it from being recovered. However, a team called A Perfect Plan obtained the same camera model the girls had, the Canon PowerShot SX70HS, and conducted tests proving that the camera could indeed delete photos this way in rare cases, such as when a photo is manually deleted moments before taking the next one. In this case, the camera stores the new photo over the old one, or a camera glitch occurs during shooting, or the battery dies at the moment of capture, so the number is saved in memory without an image. However, the idea of a single photo disappearing at that critical moment remained the biggest mystery in the entire case. Once investigators reached these findings, the search operations took an entirely new turn. After focusing on the El Pianista trail, their attention shifted entirely to the area where the backpack was found near the Culebra River. The terrain was rugged and dense with forest, making search operations extremely complex. But finding the backpack gave investigators hope that they might find more evidence regarding the two girls. So they began to meticulously comb the riverbanks and the surrounding areas. After several days of exhausting searching, just a few kilometers from where the backpack was found, they discovered Chris's denim shorts on a rock near the water. This is where the first contradiction in the reports emerged, as the official account stated that the shorts were neatly folded and placed on the rock as if someone had put them there intentionally. But the tour guide, Feliciano, and a group of locals who originally found the shorts said they were snagged on a tree branch submerged in the river. It turned out that a member of the search team picked them up and placed them on the rock to take pictures. This contradiction in statements further complicated the case. If the shorts were indeed folded, it might support the idea of a third party staging the scene. But if the shorts were originally caught on a submerged tree branch, the most logical explanation is that they were carried there by the river current. In any case, finding the shorts in that area confirmed they were searching in the right place. As the search team led by Feliciano continued combing the riverbanks, they were surprised to find a sneaker belonging to one of them placed behind a tree. As they approached it, they discovered something shocking. Inside the shoe, they found a complete human foot, still wearing a sock, with the shoelace tied tightly. After conducting DNA analysis, it was confirmed to be Lisanne's foot. The forensic report also noted that the ankle bone was cleanly broken, with no signs of sharp force trauma or animal bite marks. The examiner suggested that this separation occurred long after death due to decomposition in the water, meaning the body had been submerged for a long time. On the same day, near the location of the shoe, a piece of pelvic bone was found. After analysis, it was determined to be a bone from Kris's body. The discovery of the pelvic bone created a new mystery in the case, because this type of fracture occurs as a result of very violent trauma, such as severe car accidents or falls from great heights. Therefore, the forensic expert suggested that Kris might have fallen from a great height while they were walking in the dark, Over the following weeks, search teams continued to find scattered bone fragments, totaling 33 small bones. Most belonged to Lisanne's leg and one of Kris's ribs. Every part they found was in a different location along the river, as if their bodies had disintegrated and been scattered by the current. Even more bizarre, in late August, locals found a piece of Lisanne's skin rolled into a small ball near the spot where the shoe was discovered. When all the recovered remains were taken to the forensic lab, the results raised more questions than they answered. The first thing that caught their attention was the significant difference in the state of the remains themselves, as Lisanne's bones still had tissue attached, meaning they were in the early stages of decomposition. As for Kris's bones, they were strangely white, as if they had been washed with a chemical. Forensic experts also ruled out sunlight as the cause, because such bleaching requires a very long period of direct exposure, which is impossible in such a dense forest. Furthermore, the area's soil contained no natural substances that could have caused this bleaching. Is it possible that someone used chemicals like lime or phosphorus to speed up decomposition and hide any evidence? However, some Dutch experts suggested that the acidic nature of the water and the river's movement might be the reason for this bleaching, especially since none of the bones found bore any scratches or bite mark from predators. But the biggest shock of all is that tests proved the bones found did not belong to Kris and Lisanne alone. Bones belonging to at least 3 other unidentified people were also found. And here, the case shifted from a mere disappearance of 2 girls to a terrifying possibility that the entire area might be a mass grave for a gang burying its victims here. As the puzzling evidence mounted, the opinions of investigators and the public split into 2 main theories: the accidental theory and the crime theory. Authorities in Panama and the Dutch team that arrived to assist in the investigation favored the accident hypothesis. They said the 2 girls likely lost their way after passing the trail's summit, and that one of them, most likely Kris, fell from a high cliff, or one of the monkey bridges, which are primitive rope bridges spanning rivers that only experienced locals know how to use. So, it is likely she tried to cross and was seriously injured. In those difficult moments, Lisanne stayed by her side for days, trying to save her and calling emergency services. But after Kris passed away, Lisanne packed their belongings into the bag and tried to continue alone in search of help, only to fall herself and meet her end. After that, the strong river currents broke the bodies apart and scattered their belongings along the river bank. Although this theory seems logical, it does not explain many mysterious details, including how did the backpack remain organized and in near-perfect condition for 10 weeks? And why were Kris's bones bleached while Lisanne's were not? And why were their bones fragmented in this way, despite there being no signs of animal bites or sharp tools? As for the crime theory, it suggests the 2 girls met a person or a group of people and were kidnapped and killed. This theory relies on the deleted photo that someone seems to have professionally erased. It also explains the attempts to unlock Kris's phone with the wrong password, and accounts for the bleached state of the bones as part of an attempt to hide evidence. This theory also explains the bag's sudden appearance after 10 weeks in a remote location, still intact and tidy. It also explains the presence of other people's bones in the same place. But although the crime theory seems logical to some, it also fails to explain many other things. If there really was a killer, why leave the bag behind? And if he decided to leave it, why keep evidence against him inside, like phones and a camera? And why scatter the remains like this instead of burying and hiding them completely? After years of investigations, analyses, and many theories, The case of Kris and Lisanne's disappearance and death was officially closed by the authorities in Panama, and it was deemed an accidental fall from a height. Yet the story remained full of question marks and questions that no one has been able to answer to this day. In your opinion, which theory seems closest to the truth? Do you think the two girls died in an accidental fall? Or is there a secret buried in the bouquet jungle yet to be revealed?
And you, dear viewer, share your opinion with us in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to our channel to receive all the latest updates.